This is Liz Hill. I'm with Meg, Shanley, Alger from DNMC, and we are so excited to be interviewing Alexandra Gardner for our podcast today. Alexandra is a wonderful composer living in Baltimore, and we are so excited to talk with you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Usually the first question we ask is, what drink are we having? But it's 10 a.m. today. So I think we've gone over this already, but what are we all drinking? Coffee.
Coffee.
So everyone, we're awake, but we're still caffeinating.
Yes.
We are. We're using our words early this morning.
That's right. We're using our words early.
It's a slow process.
That's right. That's right. Liz, do you want to ask a question first, or do you want?
Sure. So let's see, just going down the line. So Alex, what are some of the strengths that you see in the DMV new music community? And what are some aspects that you are hoping can change or show progress in the future?
Wow, that's a loaded question. Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I see, well, there's so much happening in the DMV music community between, DC and Baltimore and I guess Northern Virginia. And there's so much to choose from. There's, large institutions like the Kennedy Center and Strathmore. And then there's like the small ensembles doing cool things. There's a really, healthy, both in Baltimore and DC, electronic music scene, an huge improv scene in Baltimore, especially like DIY, build your own circuit boards kind of improv and everything. The High Zero Festival is a big deal every year. There's a huge variety of things going on. And what I hope for in the future is that, things will be more connected. Everything is really segmented. There's, like the Venn diagram, things do intersect, but there's not like a robust sort of support system in which, ensembles can travel back and forth to different cities and do things for different audiences in an organized way. And and just meet each other and like plan together and conspire to do things as in a larger format.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's something. I've lived in the DC area and now in Baltimore for many years. I moved away a few times and came back and just stopped fighting it. So here I am in Baltimore, but that has been something that has been an issue for a really long time. So I hope that one day it, sorts itself out. Ensembles come and go and change and, things happen. But I would love to see that the music worlds of the different cities are a bit more connected.
Mm. It's interesting you mentioned that because you're not I know you're not the only person who thinks that and believes that and wants that. So pooling resources and coming up with a solution for that, there's opportunity there for sure but how to do it. Yeah. So I think this is a broader question, but just could you talk about some of your current projects, commissions?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right now I'm working on 2 commissions, one for oboe and electronics for Mary Lynch, who is the principal oboist of the Seattle Symphony. And we are running actually a consortium for that, gathering oboists to join in and contribute a little bit and then they get the piece and Mary gives a workshop for them and, I can help rehearse. So yes, we're running a consortium for that for anyone who's interested. That's available on my website. But yes, oboe and electronics is something that I'm working on. Also a piece for a marimba duo Paul Fadul, who's actually in Northern Virginia. I don't know if you all know Paul. Mm-mm. He's a percussionist in Northern Virginia, and his ensemble partner, Nancy Zeltzman, who I believe is in Massachusetts. And they have a project called the Threshold Music Project, where they're commissioning pieces for 2 marimbas plus a MIDI controller called the Pearl Mallet Station.
That's very cool.
Like Pearl is a sponsor for them, for their instruments. So yes, it's 2 marimbas and electronics performed via this mallet station, which looks like a tiny marimba. And you play it with like a tiny skinny marimba. You play it with mallets or drumsticks or whatever.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah. So those are really fun things to be working on. It's been a while since I've worked on pieces that involve electronics, and that's one of my like happy places. So this is fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's good. I was looking at that online and it looked really interesting. Just how they were talking about what a threshold is, and I don't know, and there's multiple composers, right? Composing for their project.
I believe there's 5 or 6. Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like a very interesting project. So, and then also I know WOCO is coming up soon.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited because your piece Fade, which I like as a flutist, I very much like. And of course, Alison Loggins Hull is performing it at WOCO, who I'm a big fan of Alison, because what flutist today isn't a big fan of Alison Loggins Hull? Yeah. But that's a really exciting, that she's performing that. That's soon.
Yeah, it's this weekend. Yeah, Saturday. Yes, I'm having like fangirl feelings about this performance. Yes, I'm like, Alison Loggins Hull, what?
Yeah,
Electronics. So yeah, she's amazing, and yes, I'm very thrilled to have my music included on that program. I think the whole weekend will be great.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's super exciting. So everybody should tune in.
Yes.
And watch the performance. So that's exciting.
Yeah. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
So right now we are very eager to get a sense of returning to our norm of like live performances and our pre-pandemic or non-pandemic life. But we're wondering if there are any habits or skills that you have picked up during this pandemic, and it could be musical or just general, that you're hoping will carry over and that you can continue to use in our post-pandemic world.
Oh, that's a great question. Because I've been working at home as a composer and sort of educator person for quite a while, like the pandemic my life was not thrown upside down in the way that a lot of people's were, which is, a huge privilege, and that, made it kind of more doable. However, what I did do during the pandemic was I sort of went hard on more teaching of composition, and I had already begun, I actually sort of started a business for myself that involved coaching composers. And I had already started the process of that, but pandemic sort of ramped it up. And, a lot of composers are really needing help and wanting to have questions answered and everything. So I did a lot of talking to composers, much more than I have ever done, and spending time and helping them figure out their goals and how to move forward, especially, during this difficult time, and communication skills, all the things. So I probably learned at least as much as they did during the process of this. So that's been really wonderful and satisfying and inspiring, to be able to sort of make a difference in people's creative lives that way. I did a lot more teaching of composition lessons and group things. I worked with a group of teenagers with the Seattle Creative Orchestra. I did a 8-week composition workshop with them early on, which was wonderful. And I actually built a course over the pandemic that I ran myself for composers, that was both a composition program and a career development program sort of smooshed together. So I worked with the Soli Chamber Ensemble in Texas and sort of led a group of composers through the process of writing a new piece that Soli would perform and record. They actually just recorded the new pieces last weekend, and the program is coming to a close after 5 months. But and then work with these composers over career development skills, things like how to sort of organize joining ASCAP and BMI, and how to deal with contracts, and, nuts and bolts stuff that a lot of musicians are just never taught in school that are needed. So yeah, it was a busy time over pandemic.
That's kind of a natural, I was really interested in reading about, I think, what was the name of the piece when you were in Seattle? You worked with
Stay Elevated.
Yes, Stay Elevated.
Yeah.
And that was wonderful working home. I think it was LGBTQ plus homeless youth, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you're also working as a mentor with Boulanger Initiative this summer. And is there anything that drew you towards mentorship, since it seems it's such a big part of your?
I think just, my age and experience, I really didn't take a sort of normal path for a composer. And it was, I did a lot of stops and starts and U-turns and, things to figure out what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do them. And so I figured, well, maybe I can help other creative people, maybe not have to sort of search around in the dark as much as I did for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I learned so much from doing that, and now I'm happy to pay it forward and share the details with others who need a hand.
So just to do a little promotion on Alex Gardner's website, she has her coaching information if you need any help. Just as an FYI for everybody watching.
And I can add too that, if that's something that you are interested in and want to talk about it, I will spend time with you talking about it, and it won't cost any money, an initial call just to figure out what's up and maybe get you pointed in a direction that feels good is, yes, I'm happy to do those things for people.
That's lovely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This was something else I was just interested in asking about, is if you have any advice for musicians who are interested in composing, who have never composed before, or who, are interested in, getting started, or just working with electronics, who have never worked with electronics before?
That's a great question. I think, so for musicians, if you're a performing musician, you had all the education, you can start writing music anytime you have all the tools at hand. It's just kind of a different way of using the tools. And my suggestion to people is always just treat it it's hard for performing musicians because they're performing repertoire and, maybe a lot of old music, maybe new music, but it's very, it's really different to start making your own. So I think just treating it like playtime is the best thing. The things that you start out doing will probably be awful, and that's okay. If they're not awful, then awesome, but they might be, and it's cool, just to start playing and sort of organizing things. I think a lot of about composition as archaeology. You know, you're kind of like digging up little bits of pieces of things and putting them, you know, finding bits of stuff and like putting them together and figuring out what they make, like, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's a pot, or, oh, it's a, you know, whatever. So just, you know, treating it like play. A lot of people really respond to you know, writing music like playing with Legos, like just stick some stuff together and see what happens, you know. Like there's, you know, there are no rules. There are not really rules. You can pay attention to the like traditional rules or not, like whatever works for you is really wonderful. Just the act of, you know, making sound and putting some sounds together is a really good start.
Kind of that makes me wonder then, because I see like learning music, you know, as a performer, much in the same way. You just kind of have to experiment and see what comes out of your instrument, see what you like and what you need to like never do again. But compositionally, do you have like any kind of dream instrumentations that you want to like experiment with putting together? Any type of, you know, sound combinations or instrument combinations that you haven't done yet that you're wanting to explore?
That's a really good question. I've had the opportunity to write works in a lot of really interesting different instrumentations. For instance, you know, in the year 2000, I had a commission to write a work for sort of a mini chamber orchestra plus accordion. And that was really like, it was sort of an accordion concerto kind of thing.
That's awesome.
And I was like, nobody's ever going to play this again, but I really want to do it. So I did it. I did it. And it was great. I'm glad I did it. So that, you know, I'm trying to think of other instrumentations that I would really love. You know, I'm a percussionist by training. I don't perform anymore, but I love my percussion. And if I had the opportunity to write for percussion ensemble, like only for the rest of my days, I'd be okay with that. Like that would be okay. So, you know, so always more percussion. I enjoy working with large ensembles. Mm-hmm. So just the like having all the crayons at your disposal is really cool. So, so that's really fun. Yeah, but I'm trying to think if there's an instrument I haven't really written for that I would really like to. I'd actually really like to do a wind quintet. I've never done a wind quintet. Like I haven't written for a ton of like standard ensembles. So wind quintet is one that makes me happy to think about. I love the wind instruments. Like I think they're my like strength writing for them. So yeah.
I happen to love wind instruments too.
I'm guessing that, yes, that is true.
You know.
What we do on our podcast is the final question that we ask you is what would you like us, or what would you want to ask the next person that we interview? But we forgot to do that for the last one. So we don't have that question for you.
That was my fault.
It's okay. It's totally fine.
I can ask a question for the next person though.
Yeah.
I have one.
Okay.
It's my favorite. You know, they're going to probably hate me for this, but my question is, if you could be the silence between any two sounds, what two sounds would you be between?
That's wonderful.
Whoa, that's awesome.
That's literally my favorite musical question.
That's a fantastic musical.
That's incredible.
Now I want to ask you that question.
Yeah.
Okay. So it changes. You know, sometimes my favorite option is like the silence between thunder and a strike of lightning. And sometimes I just feel like, you know, the silence between drops in a leaky bathtub. So, it depends on the day.
Such a fun question.
That is fun. Well, and it's cool because there's this whole emotional context to that too, because if you think of like the silence between thunder and lightning, that's very if you're listening for that, there's a lot of maybe apprehension or angst in that. But if it's like the silence between two, drops of rain or a leaky faucet, that's a little more like calming, a little more peaceful. So I feel like that question can give you so many windows into someone's like current mood or just, that's a fantastic question.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah.
You should be doing the interviews.
Yeah. Can you come back for a next one?
That's really good.
I used to work for New Music Box, I used to be an editor for New Music Box, the online magazine of New Music USA. And I used to do a lot of interviews of extremely fancy composers. So
that's awesome.
So you're doing well.
How did you make the transition from being like percussionist to composer?
Was
like a natural transition, or was it like?
I was always composer first. Percussion was just like I grew up studying piano, and then in college I really wanted to study another instrument, and percussion made me happy. So I studied that, but I've never ever did I consider like seriously being a performer of an instrument. It's not my thing. I don't like to be on stage particularly. So there was no transition to make. I was always once like music became the thing, I was always a composer first.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You knew music had to be it, but just not.
Yeah, not performing.
No,
it was a necessary evil. I do love playing percussion, but like I don't need to play for people. And I enjoy it. Sometimes I used to be in a salsa band, playing a percussion in a salsa band and stuff, and I did enjoy that. I enjoy certain group things, but yeah, like performing, not my favorite spot. Mm-mm. I like to write the music and give it to you. You're better at it.
That's totally fair. That's totally fair. Where do you draw a lot of your inspiration from when you write? The pieces I know best of yours are like Fade and The Way of Ideas, because those are the pieces I played, right? And they have a lot to do with the way the mind works and memories, and so I'm curious about some of your other pieces, if that's a big inspiration for you, or.
Yeah. Yes. So I'm really interested in things that I really, that inspire a lot of my work are, mythology. I was in college. In addition to studying music, I almost became a religion major because I was really interested in comparative religion. So I got really into sort of the like ritual and the stories that cultures use to explain stuff. So mythology has been really, a big thing, but also like contemporary poetry, literature. I mean, The Way of Ideas, yes, is about how the mind works. And the last couple of years, especially, I've been super into anything brain science related. That's just something that's interesting to me. But The Way of Ideas was based on a quote from a
Golden Compass
book, The Golden Compass.
Yes, yeah. Golden Compass.
So yes, I read those, as an adult. A friend was like, you have to read these books, they're so good. Mm-hmm. And I did. And I was like, they are. And that quote just really like, jumped at me. And I said, well, that's what this piece that I'm writing right now is about. So, so different kinds of stories. Yeah. And also just nature. I use a lot of field recordings in my work. In fact, my electronic work is exclusively like, I don't make synthesized sounds for any of my electronic pieces. It's all based on either the sounds of acoustic instruments or like field recordings. So
you have that one recording. There's the one piece that I think, was it performed in natural or national parks, or was you used the synthesized?
Oh, right. Vixen. Yeah, that piece,
Yeah.
Vixen. Yeah. So that was written for the Grand Valley State University New Music Ensemble. And they commissioned it for as one of a bunch of pieces for the 100th anniversary of the National Park System. So each composer, we were assigned a national park to write a piece on. And so I got Yellowstone. Cool.
Yeah.
And I was really, and Yellowstone actually has a really in-depth, like, online sound library of their geysers and animals and all kinds of stuff in the park, which is really cool. So I was like listening to the geyser sounds, and I really loved the sound of the Vixen geyser. They have a geyser that's just called Vixen. And it's like a little one. It's not very important, but I was like, this is really cool. And so I made the form of the piece kind of like the eruption pattern of the geyser,
Cool.
just as like a tribute to, the park and everything. It's such a huge park. What even do you focus on? So I decided like that would be fun. Mm-hmm. And the ensemble did play all those pieces in many national parks.
Oh, that's
so.
Cool.
That's really fantastic.
Yeah.
Vixen was actually my first introduction to your work because I played it with Great Noise Ensemble.
Oh, yeah, and that's right. I remember that. Yeah.
It was so much fun. I remember I had YouTubed videos of Vixen just to kind of hear the rhythm of the geyser. And I just thought it was so neat how you could use the full chamber ensemble to kind of produce this one rhythmic idea that just kind of flows through the ensemble. It's really, really a fun piece to play.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think I feel like the your tempo indication is like something and sassy, and I was like, ooh, I like this composer. It's like energetic and sassy or something.
Yeah.
I feel like more music should be sassy.
It should. Yeah. I agree. I absolutely agree.
I identify with that a lot.
Sassy's good. Yeah. In music and in life. Right?
In life. That's right. We all need a little bit of sass.
Yeah.
For sure. Yup.
That's good. I love backpacking. And so when I was I thought, oh man, that's so interesting. First that you created that piece, and then also that this ensemble was able to go and perform the pieces in the different national parks. It's really cool. It's really cool.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have been at the concert in the national,
That has to be the best experience it's an undergraduate institution, Grand Valley State University, or at least that music ensemble is like all undergrads. And they just did the director of that ensemble, Bill Ryan, does an amazing job, giving them a real life taste of what it's like to be a musician and go on tour. And they organize all this stuff, and they go in their van and, play for random people in national parks. And it's so cool. It's wonderful. Every undergrad should be able to have an experience like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. Do you have any questions for us?
For us? Yeah.
How does it feel to be starting to come out of all this for performers? Is there anything that you found was really positive during this experience that you want to take with you coming out of it?
I guess for me, I rethought everything. It was a big rethinking time. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm much happier with what I'm doing as a musician. I was ready to throw in the towel before. And now I feel like I'm fully invested in just making music and being my authentic self, and it feels really good. It's the first time I felt that way in a really long time. So maybe if ever, I think, so it's a little whiplashy though, coming out very quickly.
For sure.
but I think in terms of this year, it was a big emotional roller coaster. And I feel like I'm on the upswing, which is it's a good feeling.
That's great.
Yeah. I'm grateful. And I'm grateful that I can say I'm grateful,
Same. Yes. Total same. Yeah.
I think that's where I am.
I feel very similar. Like I feel very grateful, and I feel like I've kind of developed more independence as a musician. I've been kind of forced to had to do a lot more solo stuff, but it also really helped me identify what I really like and what I really missed in chamber playing and in the ensemble work. So I think it did connect me or reconnect me to the parts that are most important to me in music making. And I feel like it has really taught me to be very firm about drawing boundaries too. Because I knew, but did not realize how overworked and just, how much I was just riding on just stress right here the whole time. Mm-hmm. And I'm a lot more clear about, saying no to things that I don't want to do or things that don't interest me. But at the same time, I feel like I'm a lot more clear about trying to jump into things that really spark something in me and say hey, I really want to be a part of this, or I feel like I can contribute to this too.
That's amazing. Yes. Boundaries, so important. Yes. I think a lot of us did. I know I did. I got really clear about what I like to do and what I don't like to do, and that it's okay to not do the things I don't like to do. At the beginning of pandemic, I imagine you all probably felt this even more than I do. I did. I realized that I was so fantastically overscheduled.
Yes.
That when everything sort of stopped, I was kind of like, good problems. Yeah. I was like, oh, whew. But I was still busy. So that made me realize holy cow, I never would have made it through, the spring of 2020.
How were we doing it?
I know. And also we don't need to do it that way. It doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to say yes to all the things if you don't want to do all the things.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's so self-worth, reevaluation of time
100%.
and self-worth,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%. Yes. That's really important. I'm glad that you all came to that.
Yeah. And
that was important.
I think, like you said, I think everybody has. Mm-hmm. Everybody's been shifting gears. I think in every field, people have been reprioritizing home life and or in their careers, people have been changing paths and just mm-hmm. It's interesting to see how much people, friends and family I have, how people are shifting around and changing, and it's been a year where everybody had time to really sit with their mm-hmm. thoughts,
Yeah. Well, and hence the emotional roller coaster. It's hard to sit with your thoughts. It can be really hard. And of course, when life is just happening normally, you don't do that because you're I'm busy. I got stuff to do. I don't want to sit with my thoughts, That's right. The forced sitting with thoughts, I think, has been overall really good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
Despite the of it all, emotional roller coasterness.
It's necessary.
For sure.
Tough love.
Yeah. Yes. Enforced tough love. That is literally what just happened. Yes.
That's right. So I'm sorry we did the last question in the middle.
I don't think that needs to be changed. Let's just do that.
Yeah.
It's just a question. It's
Yeah. Keep it organic. So thanks so much, Alex, for being with us today on DNMC's podcast. Check out the link for Alex's Oboe Consortium. If anyone wants to participate, she'd love to have you. Okay. Have a great weekend, everybody, and catch us on the next podcast.
Thanks, Alex.
Bye. Thanks, Alex.
Thanks.